Hi, and welcome back to That's Entertainment, the weekly entertainment show where we look at all the interesting entertainment news from last week, this week. To kick off, if the industry's box office predictions were true, then Fast and Furious 9 will have set a post-pandemic record this weekend. The latest installment in the multi-million-dollar franchise was expected to take $66 million at the North American box office, following the impressive $1.7 million it earned from previews on Thursday and the almost $30 million it took on Friday. The film also did well in the UK when it opened there on Thursday. It took over $1.7 million, giving the UK its biggest weekday launch post-pandemic. The film's total global box office will shortly cross the $300 million mark. Okay, so again, we keep saying different movies, different contexts. There will always be a tentpole franchise out there that will move the needle at cinema, and therefore this idea of windowing, as we're beginning to see, shorter windows for certain types of movies. I think things like James Bond, Fast and Furious will always maintain this major tentpole, albeit with a 45-day window into home entertainment. So that's great news. The market looks like it's back on track for the blockbusters, and we'll look forward to seeing a slate of movies come through very shortly. However, it's not all good news for the US box office this week. Deadline picked up on a report from Wall Street research firm MoffettNathanson, which predicts that by 2022, we'll see a 20% drop in box office revenue compared to 2019. The reason for this? The shortening of the theatrical window. In the report, US theaters, it's all about windows. Exhibition analyst Rob Fishman writes, now that studios essentially have full flexibility on windowing strategies, with increasing emphasis on favoring their self-owned OTT platforms, the supply of theatrical releases from the major Hollywood studios into theaters should be negatively impacted, which would hurt long-term attendance trends. Deadline reports that Fishman estimates that almost 40% of the 2019 slate from Disney, Warner, Sony, Universal, and Paramount would have been unlikely to play exclusively in cinemas. If today's post-pandemic rules had been in place then, he believes that such a day-and-date releases when a film is also available to watch at home, usually on the studio's own streaming platform, will lose around 30% of the box office potential or revenue that they would otherwise have generated if they were only available to view on the big screen. However, Fishman also points out this loss of box office revenue will hit exhibitors harder than it will hit the studios. For example, when Disney make the title available to rent on Disney Plus on their platform for a $30 premium, the studio doesn't have to share any of that revenue with theaters. And when an exclusive theatrical release is subsequently made generally available as a PVOD rental title, after the 45 days or less, the studio keeps up to 80% of the rental fee, a much higher proportion than what they have to share with the cinemas. Tellingly, Fishman predicts those exclusive theatrical releases will also lose around 5% of what they would have expected to have made at the box office under pre-pandemic conditions, when the standard US theatrical window was 90 days. Presumably, the studios are expecting to make significantly more than the 5% of lost box office revenue, now that audiences will be able to rent the film at home and much closer to its theatrical release. In the case of some Universal titles, just 17 or 31 days after its cinematic opening night. The growth and ever-increasing importance of streaming services was highlighted once again in the new report from Workshare Consulting. The Drive New Buyers Report revealed that the VOD numbers had risen by 32% over the last 4 years, from 2,270 in 2017 to 3,015 in 2020. The report also highlighted one other factor that has emerged with the rise of global streaming platforms. And this is the growing importance of the international market to TV and film producers. According to a report in the Television Business International, UK production companies saw their international revenue growth surge by more than 200% over the past 6 years. In 2013, international sales made up around 17% of total revenues, and while at the end of 2019 it had grown to 39%, or actually £1.6 billion. The report, commissioned by the UK-based content distribution and financing firm Drive, also highlighted the boom in factual and factual entertainment programming at the start of the pandemic. These genres briefly represented 40% of all commissioning by streamers such as Netflix, Amazon, and the Curiosity Stream and Facebook Watch, as scripted production ground to halt in Q2 last year. According to Drive's MD, Leela Hurst and Ben Barrett, Domestic growth has largely stagnated for the UK production sector, and it's clear that many new buyers, of which many more have launched during the pandemic itself, provided UK producers, particularly in the factual space, more opportunities than ever to create vital international revenue streams. TBI went further and identified the following 4 key takeaways from the report. Global investment in acquired content from the English language markets has been growing steadily for the past decade, doubling in spend since 2011 to reach £38 billion in 2020, and making up more than a third of spending on non-sport content. Niche streaming services represent a growing opportunity for producers. The report acknowledges that such platforms have shown strong growth over the past few years, and the fragmented end of the industry, composed of small services, may grow proportionally faster than the rest. And as people become increasingly used to their streaming subscription services, their viewing habits are changing accordingly. In the UK, SVOD is now in significantly more households than pay TV ever was. And according to the report, the habit-forming qualities of Netflix, etc., means there is a notable difference in the daily viewing of iPlayer and Netflix, despite the fact that weekly views are similar and monthly reach is roughly the same. And finally, AVOD has well and truly arrived. There's now 600 million AVOD monthly active users in the UK and US. YouTube, for example, saw its revenue almost double from 11 billion in 2018 to 19.8 billion in 2020, despite viewing time only having increased by 15 to 20% over that same time period. Feel free to like, subscribe, and comment in the comment section below. If you've got any ideas that you'd like us to address in our show or our reports, do write in. We've been running a very interesting series of webinars over the last few months. Plus, we ran a hackathon down in Porto. The links are in the description below. Click on those, check out all the great information that we're sharing. Remember, we share this video both to LinkedIn and to YouTube. Goodbye.